Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are going to ruin your day.
Oh, wow. Starting strong.
Yeah, well, but in the best possible way, I promise.
Yeah.
We are basically taking a sledgehammer to one of the most popular, comfortable, and I'd argue annoying concepts on the internet today.
Let me guess. Positivity.
Positivity, exactly. Or
Whew.
at
Yeah.
least the kind of positivity we're constantly bombarded with.
Right. It's definitely a loaded term. I mean, I think for most people, it conjures up images of, motivational posters or those neon good vibes only signs,
Yeah.
or like that one coworker who insists everything is just great while the office is literally on fire.
Exactly. And that is why I was so hooked by the source material we're diving into today. It is a text titled The Architecture of Real Positivity. And honestly, it's a bit of a wake-up call
It really is.
because it suggests that the version of positivity we're usually sold, the whole smiling, don't worry, be happy stuff, isn't just annoying. It's actually kind of dangerous.
Dangerous is the right word. The core argument here is that conventional positivity is often just a fancy word for denial.
Right.
It's a way to anesthetize yourself against reality. But the text doesn't just tear that down. Our mission today is to look at how it offers a reconstruction. It distinguishes between fake positivity, which is passive and emotional, and real positivity, which is active, mechanical, and frankly, a lot harder to do.
It is a lot harder. The opening hook of the piece really sets the stage for this. It says, quite bluntly, that positivity is not just about smiling and ignoring everything.
And we really need to sit with that for a second, that word ignoring,
Yeah.
because that is the exact mechanism of fake positivity. It's this belief that if I just don't look at the monster isn't there.
Which works great for toddlers,
Right.
but not so much for adults paying taxes or running businesses.
Mm.
So our goal today is to figure out what the alternative actually is. If we aren't supposed to just smile through the pain, what are we supposed to do?
And the source material helps us out here by using two very specific, very grounded scenarios to illustrate this.
Yes. It uses a student failing an exam and a business owner facing a financial loss.
And those aren't just random examples either. They represent two totally different stakes.
How do you mean?
Well, one is about personal achievement and learning the student, and the other is about survival and strategy, which is the business owner.
That makes sense. Let's get into the first one then. Let's talk about the student and what the text calls the smile fallacy.
The smile fallacy, yeah.
The text describes this really common reaction to failure. It paints this picture of a student who fails an exam, gets the paper back, sees the big red F on the page, and immediately puts on a fake grin and says, all is well.
All is well! It's a classic reflex. It's a shield.
But hold on, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
Isn't fake it till you make it a valid strategy sometimes? I mean, if I'm panicking about that F, isn't telling myself all is well a good way to just calm down so I can actually function?
That is a fair point. And there is absolutely a place for self-soothing. But the text makes a massive distinction between self-soothing and self-delusion.
Okay.
It argues that when you say all is well in the face of an objective failure, you aren't calming yourself down to solve the problem. You are pretending the problem doesn't exist.
So there's a difference between taking a deep breath before surgery and refusing to admit you need surgery at all.
Precisely. In fact, the text asks a very cutting question right after the student says all is well. It asks, does that actually solve the problem?
And obviously the answer is no.
Right. The grade is still an F.
Yeah.
The knowledge gap is still there.
Yeah.
By overlaying this veneer of cheerfulness, the student has effectively blocked the only path to improvement because you simply cannot fix what you refuse to acknowledge.
It reminds me of toxic positivity in relationships or at work. When you bring up a legitimate grievance and someone just says, hey, let's focus on the positive,
Oh, yeah.
it feels like you're being gaslit.
It is a form of self-gaslighting. You are telling your brain that the signal it is receiving, the failure, the pain, the error, is false. But that signal is data.
It's just data.
Exactly. And this brings us to the structure of real positivity. If fake positivity is about blocking the data, real positivity is about processing it.
Okay, let's look at the blueprint for that. The text lays out 3 specific pillars or steps for real positivity. And I have to say, the first one sounds like a massive downer.
It usually does. Step 1 is acceptance. The text explicitly says you have to accept the failure first. It is not running away.
Accept the failure. It just sounds so passive. It sounds like giving up. Like, okay, I failed. I guess I'm a loser. How is that positive?
See, that is exactly where we get tripped up. We conflate acceptance with resignation.
Okay, what's the difference?
Resignation is saying, I failed and nothing can change. Acceptance is saying, I failed and this is the current reality. It's grounded. Think of it like a GPS. You can't map a route to a destination if you don't know your starting point. Acceptance is simply pinning your location on the map.
So, using our student example, instead of all is well, the student looks at the paper and says, this is bad. I failed.
Yes, it's the hug the cactus moment.
Hug the cactus.
It hurts, but you have to do it. You have to look at the reality without flinching. It is the exact opposite of running away.
Okay, I'm with you. I have hugged the cactus. I've admitted I failed. But what comes next? Because if I stop there, I'm just depressed.
Exactly. Acceptance is just the foundation. Step 2 is honest learning. And I want to really highlight the word honest here because the source material emphasizes it heavily. It says you must honestly seek to learn from that failure.
Why the emphasis on honest? Is there a dishonest way to learn?
Oh, absolutely. We do it all the time.
Really?
Let's say I fail that exam. A dishonest learning moment would be saying something like, well, the teacher clearly wrote tricky questions, or the room was too cold, or I just had a bad day.
Oh, I see. You're finding a cause, but it's a cause that protects your ego. It's basically saying, it's not my fault.
Exactly. It's defensive learning. You're learning how to blame circumstances. Honest learning is brutal.
Right.
It requires you to ask, what was the gap in my understanding? Did I skip chapter 4? Did I procrastinate? It requires deep vulnerability.
That's tough. Nobody likes to admit they were the problem.
No, it is painful, but that pain is the fuel for step 3.
Which is action.
Right. The text describes the final step as taking a better next step.
A better next step. I really like that phrasing. It implies the previous step was just, well, a step, a misstep maybe, but now you take a better one.
It completes the arc. Acceptance grounds you in the present. Honest learning analyzes the past, and action propels you into the future.
So applying that to the student, they accept the F. They realize, honestly, they didn't understand the calculus formulas. And this is the positivity part, they hire a tutor or they stay up late studying those specific formulas.
Yes, that is the breakthrough of this whole concept. Positivity isn't the mood you're in while you study. Positivity is the studying. It is the act of improvement.
I love that distinction. Positivity is an action. But now I want to move to the second scenario, because I think this is where the rubber really meets the road.
The business scenario.
Yeah, the student example is great, but the stakes are relatively low. The text gives us a second case study. Someone starting a business who faces a major financial loss for the first time.
This is where it gets heavy, because now we aren't just talking about grades, we're talking about livelihood, payroll, reputation.
Exactly.
The emotional pressure to deny reality is 10 times higher here.
Oh, for sure. If I lose money in my business, my first instinct is absolute panic, followed immediately by denial. It's just a slow month. The market is weird right now. It'll bounce back.
It's the "this is fine" dog meme playing out in real life. The house is burning down, but you're sitting there drinking your coffee.
So let's walk through this. The text contrasts the two divergent paths here. The fake positivity reaction is to say, ignore it, everything is fine.
Which, in a business context, is catastrophic. If you ignore a red balance sheet, you run out of cash. Game over. But why do CEOs and entrepreneurs do this?
Is it the sunk cost fallacy?
Part of it, yes. But a huge part of it is identity. Often, a founder's identity is completely tied to their business plan. If the plan fails, they feel they are failures.
Right.
So to protect their ego, they pretend the plan is still working. They double down on a losing strategy because changing it feels like admitting personal defeat.
That is such a dangerous trap. So what does the text say real positivity looks like for this business owner?
It starts with reframing the loss. The text says the owner views the loss specifically as a lesson, but it doesn't just stop with that platitude. It leads to a very specific mechanical outcome.
What is it?
The source states, now next time the strategy must change.
The strategy must change. That is so clinical. I love it.
It depersonalizes the failure completely. It's not "I am bad at business." It is "this specific strategy yielded a negative result."
And therefore, we swap the strategy.
It turns the business into a laboratory. If an experiment explodes, you don't sit on the floor crying and say, "I'm a bad scientist." You say, "Okay, that mixture was volatile. Let's try a different mixture."
This connects right back to what we said earlier about real positivity being an active, strategic process rather than a passive emotional state. In this case, the positive act is the strategic pivot.
Exactly. And I want you to think about how much optimism is actually buried in that simple statement, the strategy must change. It implies that a winning strategy actually exists.
Whoa. Okay, unpack that a bit.
Think about it. If you were truly a pessimist, you would say, "I lost money, therefore the business is doomed, I should just quit." That's giving up.
Right.
But by saying, "I need to change the strategy," you are inherently saying, "I believe there is a way to make this work, I just haven't found it yet." The optimism is in the persistence. The optimism is in the belief that the puzzle can be solved.
That is a huge shift in perspective.
Right.
We usually think optimism is just thinking things are good. But you're saying optimism is believing things can become good if we actually do the work.
Precisely. It shifts from a passive hope, like "I hope the market turns," to active agency. "I will change my product to fit the market."
This brings us beautifully to the core philosophy that the text wraps up with. It gives a definitive statement on real positivity that I think belongs on a wall somewhere, but not a cheesy motivational poster. A serious one.
It really defines the line between reality and escapism. It says real positivity is neither showing off nor running away from problems.
The showing off part, or pretense as it implies, is interesting. We haven't touched on that much.
Well, think about social media. How much of modern positivity is purely performative?
A lot.
It's about showing everyone how #blessed you are. The text calls this out as just a show. Real positivity is internal. It's what you do in the quiet, unglamorous moments when things are falling apart.
And then comes the definition of transformation. The text says, real positivity is the power to accept reality and make it better.
The power to accept reality and make it better. The source specifically invokes the concept of power there, and it carries so much weight. There are two distinct muscles being flexed, the muscle of acceptance and the muscle of improvement.
And they absolutely have to work in that order.
Always. You cannot improve a reality you haven't accepted. And accepting a reality without trying to improve it is just misery. You need both to have that power.
It really reclaims the word positivity. It takes it back from the influencers and gives it back to the engineers, the builders, the problem solvers.
It does. It frames positivity as a literal form of strength. It takes strength to look at a failure and not blink. It takes strength to say, I was wrong. And it takes immense strength to try again with a totally new strategy. That is a powerful way to live.
It effectively turns you into the active architect of your own life,
Yeah.
rather than just a passenger hoping for a smooth ride.
That's a beautiful way to put it, the architect.
So, bringing this all back to you, the listener, we've covered the student, we've covered the business owner, and the shift from ignoring to strategizing. But everyone listening right now has something in their life that isn't going to plan.
Almost certainly.
Maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's a fitness goal, or maybe it's a project at work that is just spiraling out of control. And the question this text poses to you is, which version of positivity are you using?
Are you using the smile and ignore method? Are you telling yourself it'll be fine while the evidence piles up against you?
Or are you ready to use real positivity? Are you ready to look at the mess, admit it's a mess, figure out honestly why it's a mess, and then change the strategy?
The source material actually ends with a direct prompt for the audience. It asks, when have you shown real positivity in your life?
I think that's a hard question to answer because we're trained to remember the successes, not the messy pivots.
True. But I challenge the listener to think about the failures that actually led to successes. The times when you hit a wall, and instead of painting a door on the wall and pretending you could walk through it, you actually took the time to build a ladder. That moment building the ladder, that was the real positivity.
I love that. Real positivity is building the ladder.
Exactly.
Now, before we let everyone go, I want to circle back to something that's been brewing in my mind throughout this whole deep dive.
Yeah.
We've established that you can't have real positivity without first accepting the negative reality.
Correct. Acceptance of the negative is the gateway.
So here's a provocative thought to leave you with, derived right from the logic of our source today. If real positivity requires you to stare into the abyss of failure first, does that mean that true optimism is actually impossible without first embracing pessimism and reality?
Wow, that is the crux of it, isn't it?
Think about it. The person who says everything is fine implies there is no problem to solve. But the person who accepts the pessimism, who says, this is broken and I am going to fix it, is actually the more hopeful person.
It is entirely paradoxical. You need the short-term pessimism to see the traps, to see the flaws, to see the reality of the situation, but you need that long-term optimism to believe it is actually worth fixing.
So maybe we need to stop trying to be positive people and start trying to be constructive people.
I think that is the perfect upgrade. Be constructive. Build a better reality. Don't just imagine one.
Well, on that note, we are going to sign off. We hope this deep dive helps you look at your next failure just a little bit differently. Not as something to ignore, but as a blueprint for your next success.
Indeed. Embrace the reality and change the strategy.
Thanks for listening to the deep dive. We will catch you next time.